All right, let us move on to UFC Fight Night Vera versus Cruz. Before we get into, we're only going to talk about, I believe, 5 of the bouts from this Fight Night card. Before we get into any of those, any other fights or fighters that you guys want to spotlight for our viewers and listeners?
Omar started off.
So the boy Gabriel Benitez is on the card. If you guys have listened to this podcast for quite some time, you know I have a soft spot for the kids from tough Latin America. Gabriel Benitez is one of those guys. The tenacity from all of those dudes is just out of control. It doesn't even matter whether they win or lose. It's just those guys never not fight. And so I love every minute of it, whether they win or lose. Benitez will definitely be bringing it. So hopefully he ends up with a W. He's had some ups and downs lately, but, you know, I'm always Team Benitez. So that's what that is. Other one on the card, Ode Osborne versus Tyson Nam. I would 100% make sure you watch that fight. Not really sure how that fight's going to go. I think on paper, Ode probably should be winning that fight, but the reality is both of those dudes can crack. That fight is probably going to be violence from bell to bell. If there is a second bell, I would make sure you don't miss that fight at all.
Yeah.
Mark, any other names?
Yeah, I love that fight too. I'll point out Devin Clark versus Azamat Murzakanov. Obviously, that's on the main card, but we're not going to talk about it here in our true breakdowns. Murzakanov came in with some hype to the UFC. He did not impress in his debut until the moment that he got the finish of Tafon Nchukwi. Maybe it was a bit of first fight jitters. We'll see how he looks here. He's favored to beat Clark, but Clark has shown how tough he is. He's had some quality wins, so we'll see how Murzakanov looks in that one. The UFC obviously trying to spotlight him a little bit, having that one as high up on the card as it is. And then I'll just mention an oddity, which is that the UFC apparently does not care about steroids anymore, because there are 2 guys debuting on this card who fought in the Contender Series. One popped for steroids, and the UFC was like, well, come on down anyway. So Josh Quinlan is debuting against Jason Witt, and I'm going to say Lukasz Brzeski is debuting against Martin Budet. So couldn't believe that myself when I was reading it, but yeah, I guess we don't care about steroids anymore.
Shall we begin?
We shall.
Let's do it.
Going down in the women's strawweight division, but at a catchweight of 120 pounds, we have Angela Overkill Hill taking on Lupita Godinez, excuse me. She's Mexican, not Brazilian. I always forget that. I'm just so used to the Brazilians in this sport. It just messes me up with so many other fighters' names.
Fair.
So we have Angela Hill, my girl from New York City. Started out Muay Thai, Friday Night Fights, same promotion that I got my start as a ring announcer. She is 37 years old, from San Diego, California, 13-12 as a pro. She's coming off of 3 straight losses against Tesha Torres, Amanda Lemos, and Virna Jandiroba. Lupita Godinez from Aguascalientes, Mexico, 28-year-old, so the junior fighter, 8-2 as a pro, coming off back-to-back wins. Omar, let me throw it over to you first this time. Godinez versus Hill, what's your take?
I just have to mention, that's a dope fucking place to be from. Aguascalientes. It means hot water.
Yeah, man.
But it sounds dope in Spanish, man. That's a dope name. Angela Hill, Lupita Godinez. I'm such a big Angela Hill fan. The girl's basically got a 50-50 win-loss rate at this point, but there's just always going to be a soft spot for Angela Hill in my heart. I know a majority of us have had real issues with some of the losses she's had when it comes to decisions. You know, she's like almost the queen of decisions and split decisions at this point. But I don't know, man. I really still love Angela Hill. I do think she has decent technique. I think the problem is sometimes she doesn't always bring it out. Sometimes she's not always 100% in her delivery of it. And I think against people who are 100% all the time, she ends up lacking in those moments where she needs to be over the top and kind of needs to win those moments in those rounds. I believe, however, that Lupita Godinez isn't necessarily that person, though, that's really going to put the squeeze on Angela Hill in that specific sense. She's had a couple of decent wins. They're not against anybody who's of any kind of consequence. It's not like her resume is full of people who, if you look on Angela Hill's resume, is full of real fighters, tested, true, through the fire. Angela Hill, win or lose, has generally put up a really good fight against most of these women. I would argue probably her last performance was probably the one where she got chewed up the most in recent memory. But I do think that Lupita Godinez presents a good challenge for her. I do think she's able to win this fight. I'm going to go very, very haphazardly with Angela Hill by some decision.
Mark, hit us.
Okay. Angie is a big dog. She's plus 270. Lupi is minus 340.
Come on.
It's maybe a bit aggressive. But unfortunately, I am going with Lupi Godinez here. I mean, I also like I like Lupi Godinez a lot, actually. I just mean, unfortunately, because we're all fans of Angela Hill, and things aren't going great for her lately. But I think it continues. Maybe a couple fights ago, I would have said, like, all right, this is a way for Angie to get on track. But Lupi has looked so good her last two fights, specifically the last fight against Ariane Carnelossi. In that fight, she looked like she could have been like the friggin' champion. She was incredible in that fight. So she's making big strides. Her wrestling is going to present a lot of problems for Angie, I think. If Hill ever could keep her off of her, obviously the fight changes. But Lupi's so tough, she'll press forward. And I don't know if Angie presents enough danger to keep Lupi off of her and keep her from walking forward. So I think she can implement her game, and I'm going to say she wins a decision.
Let's go Angela Hill. I'm going to ride or die with Angela Hill until she, puts those gloves on the mat, man. I'm going to go Angela Hill. I like the Angela Hill by decision pick. I'm going to say she has got to be the beneficiary of these decisions every now and then. God damn it. Muay Thai for life.
Me and Mike are just going to walk Angela Hill off the fucking cliff. If she goes, bro, we all go.
That's right, man. That's right. What do we have next? Calvillo versus Nunes. Let me find this in my little cheat sheet here. Here we go. The women's flyweight division, Cynthia Calvillo taking on Nina Nunes, the Lady Lioness. Does that make sense? It really doesn't. That's okay.
No.
So we have Cynthia Calvillo from San Jose, California. She's a 35-year-old. 9-4 as a pro with one draw, coming off 3 straight losses. Nina Nunes, wife to now once again champ Amanda Nunes. Nina, what's her nickname? The Strina?
What? Strina.
That's what Sherdog says. Nina the Strina? What the hell is that?
Strina means aunt or father's sister-in-law.
In Portuguese?
Serbian Croatian.
Oh, is she Serbian Croatian? She's from Fort Lauderdale. Like, what the hell? What was her maiden name before Nunes? She took Nunes?
Ansarov.
That's right, Nina Ansarov. Okay, Ansarov, Nina Nunes, coming off of back-to-back losses as well against Tatiana Suarez and Mackenzie Dern. So both of these ladies are looking to get back in the win column. It's a great matchup, attribute-wise, record-wise. Nunes is 10-7, 36 years old, so they're close in age, close in records, and close in skill sets. Mark, let me start with you this time. What's your take and your pick of Calvillo versus Nina Nunes?
I'm so occupied in trying to Google why she's named Estrina that I can't even focus. Okay. The favorite here is Calvillo. She's minus 175. Nina Nunes, Estrina, is plus 145. This is really hard to pick because we haven't seen either of them in a while, especially Nunes. Calvillo has looked really shaky lately, so it's really hard to confidently go without either one of these girls. Neither has done anything encouraging in a while, but They are both former flyweights. So Calvillo, former strawweight, excuse me. So Calvillo, who had moved up to flyweight, fighting bigger girls, doesn't have to deal with a natural bigger fighter here as she has in her other recent fights. This is going to hinge on how often Cynthia can take Nina down and how long she can hold her down. But I keep thinking about Claudia Gadelha and the struggles that she had holding Nina down. So I want to say that Nina can do enough to keep this standing more often than not and to win this thing on the feet and pull away on the cards that way. It's just that we haven't seen her in so long that we don't know what she's going to look like. So it's tough to bank on it. I wouldn't say bet on it, but give me Nina Nunes to win a decision.
Omar.
Yeah, I would also go with Nina Nunes to win a decision as well. I haven't had a lot of confidence in Cynthia Calvillo for quite some time. I thought it would be, when she went up to 135 because of all the weight issues, I was like, this is not the weight class for her. Goes down to 125, still not the weight class for her. I think earlier on in her career, I thought she had a lot of potential, especially with the way that she fights. She's a very aggressive fighter, but the reality is there's a lot of people when she gets outskilled and outstrengthened, somebody who's stronger than her, essentially, she runs into a big, big wall that she cannot get around. And I think she's going to run into that with Nina Nunes. I think she's better overall. I think the quality of trading that Nina Nunes probably gets with the champ has got to be, something very extra that a lot of people aren't getting. Cynthia trains with a great camp. I believe she's still training with Team Alpha Male, if I'm not mistaken. But I still think that Nina Nunes is getting something different, kind of working with Amanda Nunes. So I'm going to go with Nina Nunes by decision.
That makes all three. I like Nunes a lot in this matchup. I've never been a big Calvillo fan. And I've actually always liked Nina Nunes, as well as Nina
Ansaroff.
Mm-hmm. I was like, she's good. She's pretty good. I'll go her by decision. Why not? I think we're unanimous in our unanimous decision choices. Okay, let's move on. Let's see how close to the hour we can get out of here. Let's see, guys. Let's see. In the middleweight bout, we have Bruno Blindado Silva. Who knows what that Brazilian nickname is? Mark, look it up.
Strina. I already gave up on Strina.
So Bruno Silva taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Is it Meerschaert?
Yep.
God damn it. Is Meerschaert, not Meerschaert.
They say it both ways, honestly.
GM3.
I hear it both ways on the broadcast.
I do? Whew. Okay. Call him GM3 versus Blindado.
Side note, Blindado means protected by armor. The armored one.
Oh, really?
Sounds good.
I just pulled it up and it means tank, which I guess sort of is similar.
Oh, that's not what I saw at all.
I don't know.
So Bruno Silva was 3-0 in the UFC until he ran into a man named Alex Pereira. And he also was, I believe, riding a 7-fight win streak as a pro before he ran into Pereira. Meerschaert, he also was looking good. He won 3 straight until he ran into Krzysztof Jotko. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He got one punched by Khamzat Chimaev, which was sort of the defining moment of his career. But until then, he's pieced it back together. He's won 3 straight, and he just lost to Krzysztof Jotko. So he's looking to get back in the win column. Both these guys are looking to get back in the win column. Mark, let me start with you. What is your take on Bruno Silva versus Gerald Meerschaert?
I like this fight. Bruno Silva's a big favorite. He's minus 300. Meerschaert is plus 240 as the dog. I'm on Bruno Silva. He is one of these guys that I think is going to break through and just hasn't yet to this point. I wanted to come in and tell people to bet Silva because I thought there was value there, but I guess Vegas sees that too because he's 3-1, which I didn't expect. I trust his ground game enough to not get caught by Meerschaert in a scramble or anything like that. And I think he can hurt Meerschaert badly on the feet. I think this is a guy who legitimately hung with Alex Pereira. He's proven in prior fights how dangerous his striking can be. I think that he can finish off GM3. I will say round 2 TKO for Bruno Silva.
Okay, Omar.
I am not a huge fan. So Meerschaert's game concerns me because I've said it before. It's like Paul Craig's game, but not as efficient. He's had some nice finishes as of recent, but I don't trust the consistency in that game plan. I'm starting to not trust it as much with Paul Craig either, as far as we're concerned. But I think Bruno Silva is just a little bit better overall. You know, I don't know if we'd call him a specialist the way that Meerschaert would probably be called specialist. But I think Bruno Silva is competent enough to not get caught in anything stupid. And I do think that his power presents a really big issue for GM3 because we have seen him fold to people who have real power in their hands. So I'm going to go with Bruno Silva. I think it takes him a little bit, but I think he gets it done by knockout. I'm going to go with round 2.
I think this is a tough fight because I think GM3 is a pretty talented guy. What I count a lot is the fact that Bruno Silva went the distance with a guy as talented as Alex Pereira and gave Pereira as hard of a time as he did. So I'm going to go Bruno Silva by unanimous decision after 3 rounds. But I think it's going to be a good fight. I hope it's a good fight. I think it will be for Meerschaert's sake.
Mike, are you hearing Omar sketchy, or is it just me? Is he coming through clear for you?
I'm hearing you sketchy.
Oh, really? Wow. I hope we're all coming through clear on the
Omar's clear for me and you're sketchy. Am I still sketchy?
You're good for me and Omar's sketchy for me. Omar, what are we both for you?
Mark,
So, Mark, you're a little sketchy. Mike sounds good. But the fact that you're sketchy and I sound sketchy for you makes me feel like we'll be okay in the end.
All right. I hope. Let's finish this baby out.
That's it. We got to build a fucking studio somewhere and just fucking meet up in the middle.
I'm not going to cut
in
this part out.
like Pennsylvania or some shit.
I'm not cutting this part out so you guys could see the difficulty we put ourselves through for your benefit.
See the shit we do for you, people.
You and your MMA news is...
All right, let's hop up into this co-main. Fun co-main. Kind of a funny that it's in the co-main, but it's a fun fight. We have Landwehr, Nate the Train Landwehr taking on David Onama, the Silent Assassin. I do like this fight. These are 2 exciting guys. So we have Landwehr from Tennessee. He is 34 years old. He's coming off of a win against Ludovic Klein. He's 15-4 as a pro with 8 knockouts to his name. David Onama from Kansas City, Mo, coming off back-to-back wins. He is now 2-1 in the UFC, coming off a win against Garrett Armfield back in July of this very year. So he fought very recently. He fought only about a month ago. I mentioned he's 28 years old, so he's the younger fighter. This is going to be a scrap, guys. Omar, what's your take?
Dude, it's so hard to say, man. Onama has been such a guy with a lot of potential, a lot of hype behind his name. He's been delivering in the UFC. He had that one little skid when he first came in, but that was a decision.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, he's 10-1 as a pro. Then that one was his first UFC fight.
Right. And so right after that, he's basically just destroyed the next 2 people that he's fought. One of them being my boy Gabriel Benitez. Ran smack dab into a punch. But the reality is Onama had a lot of good potential to his name. And against somebody like Nate Landwehr, Nate Landwehr is a decent fighter. You know, he's not the most exciting fighter in the world. He's not the best fighter in the world, but he's definitely effective. His last fight against Ludovic Klein, Ludovic Klein is not a slouch by any stretch of the imagination, and he choked him out. Got him caught real nice in an anaconda choke. That word is going to be difficult for me right now. But Onama presents a lot of problems, power being one of them. I don't know how that's really going to translate. I think Nate's going to really need to take it to the ground. And if Onama can't keep it off the ground, he's going to run into some problems, I would imagine. I have confidence that Onama will be able to get it done. I'm going to go with Onama by decision.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, so this was supposed to be Zubaira Tukhugov and Nate Landwehr. Onama is stepping in on short notice. That's why he fought so recently and is kind of back here. Not terribly short notice. I think that was like 2-3 weeks ago that was announced. But he is a pretty big favorite. He's minus 290, and Nate is plus 230. You touched on it. This makes zero sense to me as a co-main event. There's higher level fights on this card, but not only that, the UFC's got to at least give us two big fights. Like, there's got to be a better co-main on cards than this. And I like this fight, but it's just not a co-main. We got to have another higher level fight than this. But anyway, I get off track. I like David Onama a lot. I think he's shown signs of maybe not having it all come together just yet at times, but you can see the skills really clearly. This is going to be a tricky one. Nate Landwehr is tough. He is tricky in himself. He's a guy who's going to make you work. He's going to make it ugly. He's going to have the crowd. He's like one of those guys that feeds off the crowd. It's going to be a tough task for David Onama. I'm going to say he gets it done. I think maybe he's losing, maybe even most of it for, like, say, a round and a half, and then I'll say he lands something big, fight changes, puts Nate away. So I will say round 2 TKO for David Onama. I think the speed of Onama is going to end up being a big factor.
I like your take, Mark. I'm on the verge of saying Onama's going to get his first win by decision, but fuck it. Let's say he gets a third round knockout, because I think Landwehr is clearly the best guy that he's ever fought. And Landwehr is no slouch, but I think Onama, with his incredible finish rate being 100%, he's never won a fight by decision. Let's say he gets one more before he steps up into even tougher competition. I'm going to go Onama by knockout, or TKO rather, in round 3.
Like it.
All right, let's hop up now into this main event of this UFC Fight Night. Awesome fight in the bantamweight division in the UFC. Marlon Chito Vera taking on Dominick the Dominator Cruz. Both of these guys are absolute killers. Dominick Cruz is really a legend in the sport. Chito Vera, if he's not a legend, he's really getting closer and closer to being a pretty high status in most UFC purists' eyes. Chito Vera from Ecuador, of course, 29 years old. He's 19-7-1 as a pro. Let's see. He's coming off 3 straight wins over Davey Grant, Frankie Edgar, and Rob Font. Let's see. Dominick Cruz. I mean, what else is there to say about this guy? 24-3 as a professional from San Diego, California. He's only 36. I honestly thought he would have been older than 36, but he's got a lot of miles on that body and on those feet, which he's always had foot problems, especially as of late. Dominick Cruz coming off back-to-back wins over Casey Kenny and Pedro Munoz. This is a fun fight at bantamweight, man. Omar, let me throw it over to you first this time. Give us your take and ultimately your pick of Chito Vera versus Dominick Cruz.
I love Chito Vera. Another one of those guys I've had a soft spot for since tough Latin America. For those of you who aren't aware, Marlon Vera won his fight in tough Latin America and actually had to pull out of the remaining contest or show or whatever due to a skin infection. So he didn't actually lose that season. He was simply removed from playing because he had an issue. Contagious one, apparently, at that. So that should be mentioned. The man is top tier. He has definitely had to work his way up. He had to move up the ladder. His skills have vastly improved from what he was at in Latin America Ultimate Fighter. That was also during a time where that man was basically fighting for scraps. He was doing that very, very raw. And now he's got the money. He's got flexibility. He's working with some of the best coaches around. Jason Perillo is now his striking coach, working with guys like Luke Rockhold and the like. I mean, that's steel sharpens steel. And I think we really saw the benefits and the gains of his training and his journey in his last fight against Rob Font. And while Rob Font, unfortunately, has a reputation as of late of taking a lot of shots and not necessarily being the best when it comes to dealing with power, Chito really put it on him. And he put it on him for 5 rounds, and he really beat him down. And I thought it was a beautiful performance. And I thought it was one of those types of performances where we saw that Chito, I think, was on a different level. And I'm glad that he's getting a Dominick Cruz fight at this point, because Dominick Cruz, I think, has always been on a different level and has consistently been so, even throughout all of his injuries and layoffs and coming back and this and the other. And while he's still, he's had a loss here and there, he's still shown that he belongs at the top of the pack. And so I think Chito is going to be able to take this fight and really do something with it. I don't think that Dominick Cruz is going to be able to deal with the power. I think the movement will work very early on in the fight, but I do think Chito is smart enough and has fantastic fight IQ that he'll be able to adjust to it. And I don't think that Dominick presents a lot of difficult avenues that Chito wouldn't be able to deal with. So I'm going to go with Chito. I don't know if he knocks out Dominick Cruz, but goddamn, wouldn't that be a feather in his cap? I'm going to go with Chito by decision.
Okay, Omar, Chito by decision. Mark, give us your take and ultimately your pick of this marquee bantamweight fight.
I hope we're all coming through clear for this one, at least, for the people, because this is a big fight. Marlon is the favorite. He is minus 230. Dominick Cruz is plus 190. I love this fight. I really do. I love this run that Dominick Cruz has been on. I'm so impressed by it that he's still this good, this deep into his career after all these injuries. It's honestly incredible. But I am with Omar. I think it ends here. I just think Marlon is too patient and too violent for Cruz's game to work against. Cruz, Omar made this point too, and I agree. I think Cruz may jump out in front and win a round or two while Marlon kind of calculates things, gets his reads, gets his angles. But I think in that time he'll be investing in the legs, investing to the body. I think he'll start to slow Dom down a little bit as the fight goes on. And I think he'll start to find bigger and bigger shots as the fight goes on. And frankly, as good as Dom is, I just don't think that he has the power threat needed to keep Chito off him. And the longer the fight goes, I think we're going to see that more and more. Like, see, a guy like Aldo, who managed to beat Chito, it was because of that. It was because he was able to keep Chito honest, and Chito couldn't, eat like he wants to. I don't think Cruz can do that. Even if this fight hits the ground, which Cruz absolutely may opt to do, depending how things are going, I trust Chito down there. I think he'll do fine. I can even see him reverse some positions. He's underrated on the ground, and he's slick with his subs, too. And he's a large human. Yep. They're the same height, but I think mass for mass, Chito's going to look big in there, personally. I think he always tends to. He's a big guy in that division. He'll have a 2.5-inch reach, which is not huge, but it's not nothing. I think there's a lot that's going to play into this. I think as the fight goes on, it starts to swing Chito's way, and I think he gets it done, and I'm going to say he even gets Dom out of there. I was torn on it, but I'm going to say late fourth round, big shot, Cruz trying to survive, moving around, another shot, jumps on him, more, fight gets called, fourth round TKO, Chito Vera.
God damn it, Mark.
Before you get into it, Mike, I also want to mention...
That was my pick, Mark. I already wrote it down. I wrote it down 4 hours ago.
I want to mention...
Sorry, Omar. Go ahead.
I want to mention that Dominick Cruz, especially as of late in his last run, right? Since being back off of his more recent injury. So from the Cody Garbrandt fight all the way... Actually, even the Uriah Faber fight and the TJ Dillashaw fight. All of those fights, he's seemed to be more hittable than usual. Even almost progressively so. And even in the Pedro Munoz fight, he gets tagged. Won that fight, but gets tagged. Chito Vera is the one that will put him out if he allows himself to get tagged. Dominick Cruz has continuously had a game where he needs to essentially be perfect in order to win these fights and not get hurt. He needs to constantly be moving. He needs to constantly be changing angles and getting out of the way, ducking and dodging. And the reality is the older he gets, the faster he's not going to be. And if he fucks up at any point in that fight, Chito will make him pay for it. And like Mark said, if you go back and you watch that Aldo Vera fight, you'll see that it's basically the both of them throwing brick walls at each other and seeing which one could go through. And Aldo won that war.
Yeah.
Dominick Cruz will literally break both of his hands before he's able to do that to Chito Vera. And so I wholeheartedly believe Chito is just going to be too difficult for Dom to put away. Dom has a championship mentality. It's very possible he finds some kind of avenue, but it won't be pretty, and it will not be dominant. I can tell you those two things for a fact.
So you guys know my pick already because of my outburst. I apologize.
We're allowed to have the same pick, Mike. Okay.
I really felt like, yeah, you're right. I feel like Cody Garbrandt. I mean, his fight with Cruz was the absolute pinnacle of Garbrandt's career, and unfortunately, he hasn't really returned to that form since. But that was a masterpiece, and I thought that in that fight that took place back in 2016, I thought it kind of exposed Dominick Cruz during this comeback of like, oh, Dominick Cruz, he just doesn't have the power anymore. He still has the movement, which he always had, but now he's lost a little bit of his power, and he just doesn't pose a threat to these guys. And I feel like Garbrandt knew it. Cejudo knew it. Cejudo put him away. Of course, that was the infamous Keith Peterson smells like cigarettes and booze. He was upset with Keith Peterson for stepping in and giving Cejudo the TKO. Then he comes back, he beats Casey Kenny, and then he beats Pedro Munoz. And to Omar's point, yeah, he got touched by Pedro Munoz, and Munoz has power. But ever since that Garbrandt fight, I've always in my head been like, Cruz is kind of done at bantamweight. And I don't think he's going to cut to 125 or anything like that. He's certainly not going to go up. But he still has the movement, which is why I think he's not going to get finished by Cheeto in like the first. So I put down 4th round TKO. I think Cheeto's going to hurt him, and eventually it's going to accumulate. I think he's going to swarm him and get him out of there. And I said 4th round TKO. Whoever the ref is will probably smell like booze and cigarettes, but it's going to be a technical knockout victory for Chito Vera in the 4th round. I think Cruz is going to stay away enough, and he's going to do his movement thing, which I love him for. I love all the fighters who bring in sort of a unique look to the fight game, and Dominick Cruz has done that. He's a one of a kind, and a legend at that.
You can't
But yeah,
forget.
man, I'm going Cheeto.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off your man.
That's it. I'm done.
I was just going to say, you can't forget, by the second half of that Pedro Munoz fight, Pedro Munoz could not figure out how to touch him. Like, he caught him early, and then Dom settled in, and Pedro Munoz was hitting a ton of air. So, you never know how these things go. I mean, Dom does what he does, but I don't think it's going to happen this time, but we'll see.
As hard-hitting as Pedro Munoz is, the way he throws his shots are very different from how Cheeto throws them. And Cheeto throws those shots much quicker, with a lot less effort, and they are just as strong. And so I'm telling you, man, if he gets tagged the same way that he got tagged by Pedro Munoz, by Chito Vera, that's night-night.
Yep.
We might see Dominick Cruz snoring.
You're right. I agree. I think I do think that Pedro Munoz, he loads up a bit because he throws some power shots. Cheeto's, I think, is quite a bit more technical. But that's it, boys. That's a wrap on our UFC Fight Night
Fucking hope people
preview.
hear what we were saying.